Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. Now, on this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Now, political parties intending to field candidates in the 2023 presidential elections have sent names of their preferred candidates to the Independent National Electoral Commission before the deadline of the 15th of July, which the electoral umpire had set. Now, with the issue of flag bearers and party politicking out of the way, Nigerians are now left with the choices put forward by these political parties and elect the candidate which they feel will deliver the dividends of leadership, development, and governance to the nation for another 4 years. Now, with a vast and diverse population which forms the Nigerian citizenry, different parties employ different strategies to elect their standard bearers and running mates. These strategies, which are peculiar to the different parties, were adopted depending on what the parties felt is going to be the winning formula for them. Now, what should then be the requirement for electing these candidates? Which of the criteria between winning elections, putting forward the most competent candidates, and achieving a balanced ticket should be the priority of these political parties? Now, to discuss these issues, we are joined by Majid Dahiru, a political analyst, right here in the studio. You're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. And very soon, we will also be joined in the studio by Samaila Musa, who is a public affairs commentator. So we'll take a short break right now, and when we return, the program commences. Do stay with us. Welcome back, and this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. So let's jump straight into it. So with the various political parties putting forward their candidates and of course their running mates for the presidential election in 2023, how would you rate the quality of these candidates put forward by these political parties?
By and large, I think each of the political parties have put forward candidates that members of the party consider their best foot forward going into the 2023 election. I say this because the main opposition party, the PDP, had its primaries first among the 3 or 4 leading contenders into the next election, and the primary election of the PDP was free and fair, and it was a reflection of the wishes of the delegates of the PDP that produced Alhaji Atiku Abubakar as the flag bearer. We saw the same thing in the APC, the ruling party. It was a transparently conducted primary election, and Ahmed Bola Tinubu emerged winner. The same thing with the Labour Party. They adopted Mr. Peter Obi following the stepping down of Professor Patu Tomi. Same thing with the NNPP. The party also came up with the candidature of the former governor of Kano. So by and large, we've seen some level of internal democratic processes leading up to the election of these candidates. So to that extent, you can say, in the opinion of the stakeholders within these parties, the delegates, they consider this set of people as the best option they have going into the election. So I think we need to respect, of course, the wishes of the political parties, since we don't have a provision for independent candidates in Nigeria yet. So it is now left for Nigerians to look at, at these candidates and much more, and make a decision considering where we are as a nation and where we intend to be. So these are the factors that I think should decide how Nigerians align their democratic choices going into the 2023 election.
Okay. Well, we're looking at Nigeria's peculiar diversity, so to speak, in that sense. The major juggling act most of these political parties have to do when selecting candidates is actually to look at a ticket that will give them a balance in terms of that diversity, and then we'll look at competence, and of course they'll have to have a ticket that will guarantee them victory, because at the end of the day, it's all about winning elections. Looking at the various pairings that we actually have with these candidates and their running mates, do you think these political parties were able to navigate that properly, or was there was there a choice, a tough choice that had to be made?
Well, none of these choices were made easily, really. But if you take into cognizance the fact of our diversity, as you rightly pointed out, in terms of ethnicity, religion, and region of origin, you would agree with me that there will always be need for balancing of any ticket going into the contest for the number one position in Nigeria. And if you understand the centralized nature of Nigeria's federation, the office of the president is very powerful and one that has a lot of role to play, even in the subnational levels.
Okay.
So the contest for the office of the president is one that is always taken very seriously, much more seriously than the subnational levels. And so the ticket for presidential election must be balanced and reflective of our diversity.
Okay.
And this is not a political party matter, it's a constitutional matter.
Okay.
Now, from where Nigeria is today, before you can take any step towards national development, you must first attain some measure of national unity and social cohesion. And that can only be attained by inclusion, equity, fairness, and justice. And that is why political parties evolved the principles of rotation and zoning in deciding their tickets at even various levels in order to give everybody a sense of belonging and to command the national loyalty for any government that's elected at any point in time. Now, if you look at each of the four leading parties, I begin with the PDP, for example.
Okay.
In the build-up to the 2023 election, there was a widespread clamour for power shift to the south. Having had the presidency in the north for 8 years by 2023, it is expedient that the presidential power should shift to the south. And so we saw the clamour. We actually saw, some green lights even from the north towards that intention to help
To shift the power to the south.
Yes, which was quite commendable, particularly on the part of the APC, really. But we didn't quite see that in the PDP.
Okay.
And so the PDP fielded a northern candidate and then picked a southern candidate. So the northerner in question, Elijah Abubakar, is a Muslim, and so he picked a Christian from the south as a running mate.
To balance the ticket.
To balance the ticket. But ab initio, the ticket itself fell short of a fundamental balance in zoning.
Okay.
Because what that means is that the PDP is intending to continue a northern Muslim rule for another 8 years, which would have been 16 years cumulatively. Okay. So that in itself violates the fundamental principle of balancing on the basis of zoning between north and south. But religiously, it's balanced. Okay. Now, like I've always said, and I've always made the point known, the APC, on the other hand, we are pragmatic, we are more altruistic in making deliberate effort to shift power to the south. Okay. And you must commend the northern wing of the APC. They displayed honor. Okay. They displayed integrity, fidelity to agreements, and commitment to our national unity when they opted resolutely that power should go to the south. Okay. Despite the fact that the north has the yam and the knife in its hand as we speak, it has the demographic advantage in our democracy. It also has the power of incumbency. So it could use this tool to keep power in the region, particularly when the PDP retain power in the north and refuse to zone to the south. Nobody would have fought the APC. But the APC decided to go south. And in going south, they threw it open. They were contenders from the three geopolitical zones in the south, across religious lines. And after a keenly contested election that was free, fair, and transparent, somebody emerged from the south who happens to be a Muslim. Now, in picking a Muslim ticket of the APC, in my opinion, I think it was simply a safe measure to guarantee that power shift indeed, because the PDP is running with a northern Muslim candidate. Okay. So it's like to ensure power really shifts to the south.
Right. So do you think now that the overall desire or the overall zeal to actually win this election overshadowed the need to have a balanced ticket
For the APC, for example, religiously?
for both? Just because
Yes.
you analyze the PDP
Because
as well.
the PDP actually talked about winnability when it decided to throw it open, knowing that the most powerful contender was going to come from the north, and because the north has the allergy of structure, because of the number of states in the north and local governments, if you throw open an election that the north is intending to win, there's a likelihood that another candidate will claim the ticket.
Okay.
That is the more reason why you need to do zoning, so that somebody will sacrifice his own privilege to say, look, I'm giving up my privilege of taking this thing to allow you, my brother from the south, to take it.
So based on the analysis that you just made now, the
Yes.
two major political parties.
Appear to have violated this act of balancing in one way or the other.
Okay.
The PDP did it in terms of regional balancing, while the APC may have violated in terms of religious balancing. So in looking at the APC, you have to understand that the PDP drew the first blood on this Muslim ticket.
Okay.
So what the APC has just done is to also come up with something that could guarantee power shift while also in the process violating religious balancing, which is very, very important.
Okay.
And so the two parties right now are a bit equal in terms of violating some of these acts of balancing. So that leaves us with the third aspirant or candidate, the NNPP. Similarly, just like the PDP, it is believed that after 8 years in the north, power should go to the south. So with the Kwankwaso also standing on the ticket, with a bishop as his running mate, it still violates the act of balancing in terms of regional rotational presidency.
Okay.
So the most balanced ticket apparently will now be the Labour Party candidate, who is from the south.
Okay.
He's Christian. His running mate is from the north, who is Muslim. And I'm talking about Mr. Peter Obi and Dati Baba Ahmed. So they appear to be a bit more balanced.
Okay.
But again, we must understand that the role of a political party is not only to win elections, and that is one thing we must correct. And is an anomaly that has crept into our democratic consciousness that we must correct. The role of a political party is the brain box of a democracy. Okay. It is where the ideals of governance, good governance, meritocracy, morality of the highest order are actually incubated for the good of the nation. So winning election is not always the end purpose of a political party. It is to deepen the culture of good governance within a democratic setting. Okay. All right. So it's important to put this into perspective as we're having this conversation.
All right. So let's put a pin in that. We'll actually come back to that right now. Right now, we'll take a short break, after which we'll be joined by our second guest right here in the studio to continue this particular conversation. Stay with us.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Nsuka zone, there are all the galas. Cultural wise, their masquerades are gala masquerades.
Gala nation had embarked on expansionist war severally.
Nobody dig his grave. Now he dig a grave, now he bury himself.
If you are to be given a position as a traditional ruler, it must be the Ata who will give you the staff in those days.
We are from Igala.
Welcome back to Daily Politics on Trust TV. Well, we've been discussing a lot of issues right here in the studio, and right now we're being joined by Samaila Musa, who is a public affairs commentator. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so before you came in, we were talking about the political juggling act that political parties have to navigate between winning election, competence, and then achieving balance based on our peculiar diversity. So I've heard his own side of the argument. How do you think these political parties, with the candidates that we have now, do you think the political parties were able to truly navigate this?
Honestly speaking, me for one, I think I've tried to avoid some interviews based on the moment they tell me the topic is about whether Muslim ticket or Christian, I just don't turn up.
Okay.
The reason is because I feel the polity is already being heated, so you keep flogging it, it has a tendency to want to explode. It might not be now. Sometimes you keep bottling something. The time it explodes is not something you can contain at the time. But I mean, since I'm here now, both the PDP and the APC, because maybe the Labour Party, but of course, let me just digress a little bit. I need to talk about the Labour Party. What I see about the Labour Party is more of social media. I was a party man, and I tell you, party structure is very important. I do not see the kind of spinning you want to spin in the long run when you don't have structures anywhere. You have people, of course, all well-meaning Nigerians will love people who have lofty ideas to move this country forward. But you see, the kind of politics we practice in Nigeria, party is very, very key and very essential. Okay. Now, having said that, it's left for his team to actually see where are the loopholes, what can we do to amend, because when you don't have not even one single sitting governor and stuff like that. General Buhari tried it in the past, believing he's this alpha male who can actually pull all the stunts. He doesn't care if there's any structure anywhere. He feels he can change party per time, but he has always got his fingers burnt. These are lessons for his own the obese camp as well. But you see, PDP had issues on ground, which we all saw it coming. A wiki, for instance, because that's actually the major issue PDP is having right now. Whether you like him or not is a factor today in Nigerian politics. You can't decide to discard him at your own, risk. If you have someone of his caliber, who's got that kind of clout in any party, nobody wants to joke with such individuals. Okay. Because it's not just only the sitting governor in his camp now. He has about maybe 4 or 3 or 5 of them. No serious politician wants to joke with a sitting governor, even if he's outgoing. But PDP once tried that, it backfires, when you have the G5 moving out. We saw all what happened. And then this issue came where the issue of the running mate wasn't properly managed, because I'm also privy to some meetings and stuff like that happening between them, and it wasn't properly managed. But, lately, was it yesterday or 2 days back, I saw an autumn saying, they can resolve it. Atiku has reached out to him. That's good for the party, I think, in the long run, because it could have been a very costly rift. And then coming to Asiwaju, there's no how you want to talk about the APC that you want to evade the question of the Muslim or the Christian Muslim ticket. It's been a culture in Nigeria. It's been a culture over time that it has so much sink into, permeates into our psyche that any other thing outside that formula, it's already an abnormality. There's so much resistance that comes naturally. It's just like a reflex action, So when you have this kind of situation, I think the time the opera started, it was already late. Okay. From the time the party was fielding, or Asiwaju was fielding someone from Katsina, a Masari, as a placeholder. It should have been the time this noise will have started, because that's where it's going. It's testing the waters. That's why you could have that kind of thing, because it's also about perception management. And they've saying, oh, like everybody seems to be like at this school, nobody cares.
So basically,
where
the APC went with that. They jettisoned the idea of having a balanced ticket in favor of what they believe will be a winning formula for them.
Okay, I'll tell you, it's beyond just a winning formula, because you see, I think one blunder Asiwaju made was to say that it's about competence at the point. You shouldn't have said that. I saw at a particular time where El-Rufai also mentioned that they did it in Kaduna. I shouldn't have said that. Everybody knows you did it. But when you begin to rub it in people's face, it becomes like an insult.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? So you shouldn't, there are some things that they better left, just don't mention it. We already know what's happening. But when you say it, you're rubbing it on the other people's face. The APC want to claim, oh, it's about the winning ticket. Yes, I'm sure they have consulted here and there. You see, there's this little resistance or this mistrust between the northern Christians and the northern Muslims. You understand? So maybe an average northern Muslim feels, so if somebody is to represent me, should it be a Christian?
Okay.
You understand? And the northern Christian is also feeling, if I have this kind of opportunity, which comes like once in a lifetime, that you have this kind of scenario, so why should it be that ordinarily what we know to have been the norm will now be changed?
Okay, so basically now, are you saying that these parties now are choosing, winning the ticket, or winning the election, and achieving balance over competence?
No, they're not really, it's not really what's happening. You see, in that of APC, yeah, there's that belief that it's about winning, but the candidate is also looking at in whose hand is my life safe as a running mate.
Okay.
If I can't continue today, do I trust this person to take over from me? Are we having some marriage of convenience? The other people you're trying to suggest to me, I know he has always hated me all my life. He never said any good thing about me. But just lately, because politics is about interest, and then you want to force that kind of person on me, I'm not comfortable. There are people I feel I can work with, I'm very comfortable working with. So you can push other narratives, but deep down, based on previous experiences in Nigerian politics, some candidates also feel, I rather want somebody I'm also very comfortable with, that I can work with.
Okay.
So, and in that of the PDP as well, there's so many things that we don't want to talk about, because it's not just about winning. Because if you talk about winning, Okowa does not have the clout the Wike was having at the time.
Okay.
You might want to spin some things out after you've announced that, and then begin to pull some stunts. But at the time, we know Wike was actually a factor.
All right, let me bring Majid into this conversation. You were talking about the challenge that lay between having a balanced ticket and how difficult it's going to be to do that, and then to have a competent ticket or a competent combination that can actually do that. So, right now, do Nigerians now have to grapple with whatever it is or whatever decision these political parties decide to take? Do we have to grapple with that, we as Nigerians, and then we just have to live with it?
No, there are options.
Okay.
Now, the PDP's jettisoning of zoning by picking a presidential candidate from the north with the prospect of retaining power in the north for another 8 years would come with its own consequences. In fact, we've seen that already in the candidate of the Labour Party, who has practically appropriated the southern base of the PDP for those that are protesting against the violation of zoning in the PDP. Similarly, Asiwaju's decision to pick a Muslim from the north will also have its own consequences. So you're going to likely see protest or revolt from certain quarters within the party who feel strongly about this decision. And because we are a multi-party democracy, there are options. So people will vote along the line of both their sentiments and their leadership need. In terms of competence, potentially, all of them are competent. Potentially. There's nothing wrong with any of them. But what we want to see, we want to see each of these candidates come up with a coherent, comprehensive message of national rebirth. Something that people can relate with and say, okay, if this is the way you want to go, we are willing to stake our democratic investment in you by voting for you. So it is about what they're going to promise going forward. It's about their policy programs and the action plan. These are the things, for me, that would matter now going forward. Because, like I said, the two main parties, the ruling and the opposition party, appear to have contravened the issue of balance in one way or the other. One did it religiously, one did it in terms of religion and ethnicity. So it now kind of levels the ground between the two.
Okay.
Because, again, the APC initially took the moral high ground by going to the south. But with this religious imbalance, it appears to have reversed some of those gains a little, especially the way it was communicated. And I agree 100% with my brother here. The communication wasn't very tidy. The drama we saw a few days ago by trying to, bring in people that have raised a lot of controversy about the fact that they are not real men of the Episcopal body in Nigeria was unnecessary. Look, beyond religion and beyond the need to win elections, there are many reasons, many good reasons, that Asiwaju would have picked a Kashim Shettima.
Okay.
Look, Kashim was one of those who led the charge for power shift from the north. And thankfully, his colleague governors and some of the other stakeholders in the north, in the PDP from the north, concurred and agreed. I also remember that he stood firmly by Asiwaju Tinubu throughout the entire period.
So right now, was that based, with the selection of Kashim now, was it based on Asiwaju's own
personal relationship with this man? And if you talk about those who contribute to making your ticket possible, if that's the consideration, Kashim qualifies towards above every other contender for that.
So could Kashim's clamor for the move for the zoning to the south, could that be why Kashim was so adamant about moving power to the south? Because he probably knows he has a transactional
He was not sure. In fact, let me tell you, at the beginning of this race, Tinubu was not even certain to win. It was not certain at all. In fact, it was very far-fetched.
Okay.
His own position was Tinubu played a huge role in making sure power returned to the north in 2015, which is a fact.
Okay.
That was his position. And I felt it was payback time for that favor done to us. Now, that was the basis upon which he was doing whatever he was doing.
Okay.
Now, Asiwaju became the option eventually when Atiku emerged from PDP. The APC now needed somebody from the south who had the gravitas to match a formidable candidate like Atiku Abubakar.
Okay.
So Tinubu came up. Let me tell you this also. It's important for us to understand that Tinubu was not elected the candidate of the APC because he was a Muslim. No, he wasn't. He was elected because he was Tinubu and all that he represents. A co-founder of this party, somebody who has invested so much in the politics of Nigeria and particularly his party. Okay. So that was the basis of his election. So if you tie all of these factors together, you realize that beyond religion, really, there was a personal relationship between Tinubu and his running mate. In the same manner that Atiku had a personal relationship with Okowa. Okay. Okowa supported Atiku ahead of the primaries, while Wike was contesting. So naturally, you would want to pick an ally who be a member of your inner caucus as president, if eventually you are elected, as your running mate. So sometimes these decisions may not be based on ethnicity strictly or religion, but personal relationship. But I agree that both parties, whether the PDP, whether the APC, they need to communicate their intentions better so that there will be a dousing of tension across the country and we cannot focus on the real issues going forward.
All right, so you seem to be in agreement with the fact that some of these choices of running mates were based on personal relationships that the two people had. All right, well, let's move away a little bit from that right now. I want to ask your opinion about this now. All these other issues that we're focusing on. He talked about having a policy program, an action plan, a roadmap for how we can be able to have a rebirth program. Are we actually looking at these issues right now, or are we busy focusing on something else? Because the candidates still have not seemed to put forward what he is talking about at the moment right now. Is that good for our democracy?
Okay, you see, the Nigerian problem, sometimes you wonder, where are we going to start from? You know, because at the time where we're supposed to be talking about party ideology, the manifesto of the candidates themselves. Something else has taken over that space.
Exactly.
It's about where you come from, the religion, and stuff like that. And this country has never been so divided across religions and ethnic lines like we have it now. And that's why it's important that it needs to be handled carefully. You know, already there's so much distrust. And then when you take some certain moves and, like you said, you didn't communicate the right body language, then the other people just take it based on what they perceive what you're trying to do. So it's further going to divide us the more, such that, like they say, you don't even mind whether it's a good message, both the carrier of the good message and him being a bad person, even though he's bringing it, you don't want any of them. You understand? So when we get to that stage where people don't want to know even if you're the best person to actually do the job, but because they don't like you, they don't care. We have to be able to manage ourselves to get to that pedestal that says that, yeah, I don't like you, but you're the one that can actually secure the future of my children in terms of good governance.
Are we on the road to getting there?
That's the problem, because we're now stuck. At the time where we should be wriggling out and get to that pedestal, we're now stuck with this issue. And I tell you, one of the reasons why this issue is actually getting more heated is because all of them, all the parties, they're not getting the right handlers. You listen to some of them just talk, you go to social media, they don't even say things that will make the other person reason, but rather you just spew, you vituperate nonsense, you spew hatred. And you understand? So he feels, oh, initially I wanted to even give you a chance or to think that perhaps it's based on this, you did that. But with what you're saying now, then go to hell.
Okay. True.
So we're not managing it at all. So, and that's where the problem is. And if we get stuck in this, people will see whatever move, even whoever becomes the next president, people will always see whatever he does to say, oh, it has always been their grand plan.
Okay.
This is what they have always, even though the man from PDP or the man from APC are not even communicating in that regard. Maybe just on platonic level of, oh, we were colleague, hello. But the message, the other people are, I mean, the conclusion is that we've all known, they've had their meeting, you know, it's all game playing out, you get?
Okay.
So I always don't want that to happen, because I don't think there's any kind of country, I mean, any country in the world that is like so heterogeneous like we have in Nigeria. You cannot copy what's happening in America because they don't have this kind of problems that we have that are just peculiar to us as a people. So that's where our major problem, until we're able to say, look, because it's even, you can still manage it as it is now. If both camps, especially the APC, will get the right handlers, the right media people who will actually preach peace and begin to say things that make people believe that, look, it's not like the man doesn't want to pick a Christian. He has so many of them that they are allies, they've done good things together. As a matter of fact, some of them became this and that because of his input. But because of this and this, you see, communication is very key. So, but whatever you see is part of the reason why you're doing this. And you feel, because you should have a meeting in your media team or you as a principal to say, we can't say that, sir. Because some people will perceive this. Some people will perceive this. All we need to do is just, because at the stage where we are now, is to manage this country and make everybody feel comfortable.
All right. So talking about having communication, talking about communication and passing the right message and all that. Let's move slightly away from the politicians right now and let's talk about Nigerians. Let's talk about the electorate who will be voting in 2023. Now, the coalition of northern groups raised an alarm that a lot of voters in the north are not participating in the continuous voters registration exercise, meaning they might be disenfranchised. And the reason that they gave is that northerners are not happy with the performance of the current president, especially as he was put forward as this grand messiah that's going to come and wave a magic wand and everything is going to be okay. So doesn't that mean that this puts a huge blow to the issue of competence?
The truth is, I mean, after 8 years of presidency in the North, and today, if Nigeria is described as the third most terrorist country in the world, it is because of northern Nigeria. If Nigeria is said to be one of the poorest countries in the world in terms of the number of people living below poverty line, it is because of the poverty in the North. If you talk about so many other negative indices of development, including that of school children, it is because of the prevalence in the North. Naturally, there is a political fatigue in the North because the North invested emotionally, morally, financially, materially in the candidacy of President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015, like never before in our history. I was a witness to that history. And if in 7 years that government has failed to deliver on key performance indices, particularly as concerns the North, then why is the Northern really bothered about who becomes president after now when he's struggling to survive under the yoke of insecurity? So that is quite understandable, and it is natural. So it is the South that is hungry for power, that you see a spike in registration and eagerness to grab power through any of these political parties, because they've been out of power for 8 years by 2023. So for the Northerner, he's seen all. So I'm sure he's waiting for the Southerners to also come back after 8 years to also behave the way they are behaving, if their own sons or daughters do not perform as president. So it's understandable. But it doesn't jeopardize competence. Like I said, potentially, every aspirant is competent. In fact, I'll tell you something. You cannot even judge an aspirant all the time by his antecedents of poor performance or bad governance or bad character going forward. You may not always judge an aspirant based on the performance of his party, because we've seen in history where people emerge from some unusual quarters, so people you least expect to be a Moses out of Pharaoh's household, emerging to become great leaders. So what I'm saying this is, as Nigerians, we need to give benefit of doubt to everybody. But critically, they need to listen to the needs of Nigerians. And where necessary, you can even admit failure of either your party or your generation, but people must see hope in whatever it is you represent at this point, without which there will be more apathy in the system. So we need to see that going forward. So the communication is also very important. The thing is, you can't talk about development at all without unity. And without inclusivity, fairness and equity, justice, you can't have unity at all. So no matter how well-intentioned you may be as a leader, no matter how brilliant you are, no matter how capable you are, no matter how competent you are, if you don't have a Nigerian nation behind you, you can't deliver on any of your key promises during your campaign. And that is why the communication must start now, to ensure national healing. And particularly the APC, it appears as though Nigerians are more concerned about same-faith ticket than even PDP's violation of zoning. It has appeared so. Even when some of us felt much more strongly about PDP violation of zoning. But recently, the reports we are getting is that a lot more people feel more concerned about the prospect of same-faith tickets. That is because of the reflection of our recent reality as a divided polity. Otherwise, I wonder why nobody is communicating the fact that the Southwest zone, where Tinubu comes from, is a special zone in Nigeria, where religion plays little or no role in its electoral processes. Because the southern part of Nigeria is one that all of us need to learn from. That zone is the only zone that is thoroughly integrated in terms of ethnicity and religion, where there is high level of acceptability and accommodation, such that a typical Yoruba man, like Tinubu, for example, is as much a Christian or a traditionalist as he is a Muslim. And that is why same-faith tickets, either Muslim or Christian, has no issue at the subnational level in the Southwest.
When it comes in the South,
Meaning, an average Southwesterner, whether he's Christian, whether he's a traditionalist, whether he's a Muslim, can easily run with any of the faiths across the divides. That was why he had it in 1993, and it wasn't such an issue. But if you look at the Southeast and the South-South, and the Northwest and Northeast, religion plays serious role in the politics. That is why, for example, if you have a candidate on the PDP platform, for example, like Senator David Mark, who is very powerful and influential in the North, and who has the capacity to actually take the PDP ticket if the party had zoned the presidency to the North, for example, and is to pick a running mate from the Southeast and South-South, there is a 100% possibility that you pick a Christian.
All right.
So we need to understand this peculiarity. But unfortunately, I am not the spokesperson for Asiwaju Tinubu's campaign. I expect them to make this communication in a manner that shows that We didn't do this to spite any religious group.
Okay.
Because religion matters in our politics. Ethnicity matters. And everybody must have a sense of belonging. Otherwise, you can't have a united nation that can rally around you to salvage the country.
All right, but why does it have to matter over competence?
No, they are not mutually exclusive.
Okay.
Look, inclusivity does not exclude competence. What inclusivity means is this. Because of our deep divisions along ethnic and tribal lines, for us to become integrated and become united as one people, because indeed we are one people, we must not forget to make this comment. We're one people. There was a program that was airing on your channel, and I made a comment about it behind the stage, that these are the kind of message we need to see, the link between the North and the South, through the various ethnic groupings, meaning we are from one source. But to demonstrate that, is for the man in Katsina to show that we are one people. I am going to vote for the man from Adamawa, from the Northeast, to become president. Similarly, it is also demonstrated that the man from Kano will say, look, to show that I'm one and the same with the man from Enugu, I am opting to shift this position to the most competent person from Enugu to prove that oneness. You see, if this is done over time, there are high chances that would have become so integrated, especially if those that are giving position on trust through zoning and rotation do not abuse it by elevating their own section over and above the same people that gave you the mandate to rule.
Okay.
So if you do not do that, a time will come that it will no longer matter. But for now, we need to build the building, we need to arrange the building blocks of our nation before we can move forward.
Let me bring Samaila into this conversation. Right now, let's talk about the 2023 election itself. Right now, let's talk about the let's say the contenders. We've just talked about PDP, APC, and to some extent the Labour Party. There's a party that seems to be going under the radar and is not getting the kind of mention that some people actually believe they should get, because they seem to have more structure, even a better structure than the Labour Party, just like you pointed out. And that is the NMPP. The NMPP has a candidate in Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso who has some pull when it comes to politics, especially in northern Nigeria. Do you think that the NMPP and Kwankwaso are being underestimated when it comes to this election, and do you think he has the capacity or the capability to be a dark horse in this race?
Well, I think maybe Kwankwaso himself, or maybe his followers, are overrating him.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone needs to come to terms with reality. Kwankwaso has grassroots, mobilization, no doubt, but that kind of followership they want to push to the rest of the country only exists in the Northwest.
Okay.
Yeah. You see, there are a lot of things that happen in politics. If you want to hold, maybe PDP is holding a rally, for instance, when he was in PDP in Port Harcourt, and then I see a lot of people wearing red caps. That doesn't mean, I know politics very well, that does not mean that man has that kind of followership in Port Harcourt. Like impression you want to give.
Just like you're wearing a red cap now doesn't mean that you're a Kwankwaso.
You understand? And anybody can just come together and say, look, we want to go and stage a rally for our candidate. I'm not saying this is not to spite him or to say he does not, but the overrating is actually the problem.
Okay.
Both him and the Obi's camp are suffering the same problem. You understand? You don't overrate your candidate, and then don't push it in such a way that is the only one, because other people are looking at you and just laughing and say, okay, we'll see. You understand? In politics, you try to stretch your handshake across and see who will be willing to join, and then begin to sell the narrative of why it should be this man and why you're following him, and not just because there's a red cap movement somewhere.
All right. All right. So let me take this final thought right now from you. Let's end on the note that we started on. Okay. Balance, competence, winning. If a political party is to lean towards one, which should it be?
Balance, competence, and
winning.
And winning are all mutually inclusive. That's why I said the political party is the brain box for democracy.
Okay.
So the political party will be able to align these three factors and still win an election. Okay. So if you fail to align one out of these three, it means you have failed as a political party. Because they're all mutually inclusive. You can have competence, you can have balance, and you can still win. In fact, what wins you an election in a democracy, as we've seen now, is three of these factors combined. And with the electoral act that has been signed and what we've seen in the previous elections, even before Oshu and on Oshu and on the election day in Oshu, Nigerians are now emboldened to believe that their votes count.
Okay.
So people are going to be voting along personal, individual interest lines. And so these three factors will have to align properly to garner the most vote. And that is why as we go into this election, it is becoming increasingly unpredictable who the front runners are.
Okay. Do you agree with that?
With the last one?
Yes, that as in the three factors need to be aligned before you can be able to.
But definitely. But you see, what we rather have in Nigeria is that winning comes first. A candidate want to win by every means. Someone was chatting me from the US yesterday. He said it seems this guy and that guy are very desperate about this 2023. I said there's none of the Nigerian candidates that is not desperate. You understand? You see that playing out at different levels, you know, at opportunities being given to them. And that's why, even though sometimes there are overzealous followers who will do something else apart from what the principal is saying. Like you have the issue of the fake bishops attending Shetima's unveiling. It might not be from the top. It might be some overzealous followers who perhaps were giving money. Because you see, in every political gathering, money have been given for mobilization. Nobody should lie to anybody that nobody is paying for mobilization. It's been done. But somebody is feeling, why do I have to give this big bishop 500 or 1 million to bring him here when I can just sew the uniform and bring in some people to do that? And that will ultimately become an embarrassment to the principal in the long run. So sometimes politicians don't care. But you see, coming back to the question, is that there's a need to put competence forward. But you see, when you're trying to strike a balance, some candidates are very pompous. You know, I'm the only person who can do it. I'm the only Messiah dropped from heaven. We saw that, and that's why we're still in this problem right now. Someone somewhere felt he's the only one and nobody else in the whole of the country. To the extent that he could not even groom a successor. Because he's the only person. There's no any other person in Nigeria that can succeed him. And then right before him, we saw how a coup was being staged, and then he lost the grip of the party. So there's a need actually to put competence forward, but at the same time, let it be a candidate that can actually unite the country. Not simply because you have all the econometrics in your head, but can you unite the country? Because the unity of the country is very, very paramount and is very key in any kind of developmental issue you want to talk about. Because it is true that you can even achieve this issue of insecurity. You understand? So there's a need for the three of them to actually go together so that we can achieve what we want to
all
achieve.
right. So, gentlemen, it's been wonderful talking to you on the program, and we appreciate all the insights and, of course, all the analysis. Thank you very much for coming to Daily Politics.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right. So that's how we're going to wrap it up on this episode of Daily Politics on Trust TV. Join us again as we bring you other issues that we talk about concerning Nigerian politics. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Thanks for joining us.